How sad. You Earthlings have no idea how lucky you are to know the delight of pudding, but for me it's a taste always just beyond grasp, at least for the last 5 minutes. Pudding! Oh, even the name is resplendent in flowing deliciousness!
What's going on, guys? MariK here, back with another Dragon Ball Super deck profile. This is the second weekend since the Tournament of Power has been released, and we wanted to go with something really crazy this weekend. So what better crazy character to play than the God of Destruction himself, Beerus. I wanted to give this leader another shot, especially with veggies running amok, and there's a lot of lower cost cards that are beneficial to the new decks. And Beerus' ability, when he attacks, if you have 3 or more energy, you choose one of your opponent's battle cards, 2 or less, and KO it. You can kill off any of those Kabbas. You can kill off the Khalifas. If they're playing the new veggies, you can kill off the 2-drop Kales. There's just so many things that Beerus can KO. Now, having to have 3 energy does kind of suck, and 2 or less is really not that great. But when he awakens and becomes Beerus God of Destruction, now it's choose one of your opponent's battle cards, energy 3 or less, and KO it. The activate main, we don't even go for. Especially with the tempo of this game, if you have 16 energy, switch this card to rest mode, you win the game. That's just never going to happen. Don't even bother trying it. As much as I hate the card, with the Beerus leader, I feel like this card is essential to really get the most out of the leader. So we run 4 objection. This is always my turn 2 play. In fact, if I did not have an objection opening hand before the mulligan, I would put back at least 5, if not all 6 cards. Having an objection to play turn 2 then puts you on 3 energy on turn 2, which means Beerus is always going to be able to KO all of those smaller battle cards like most of the veggies. So running 4 objection was just a must. I really, really hate the card. I hate how it's a -2 for literally nothing, but when you're playing it with the Beerus leader, at least you get a little bit more out of it. The first real card we play is the Universe 10 Supreme Kai Gawasu. 1 cost, 5,000 power. You get to search top 3 cards of your deck for a god, add it to your hand. Most of the cards in the deck are gods, so he does not want to focus. So you rarely ever miss with him. Although I will say 9 times out of 10 during this weekend's tournament, I always ended up getting a Piccolo Super combo. That was usually the only option. Somehow, they just wanted me to have that card. Then we had 2 into Fire, West Supreme Kai. She's a 2 cost, 5,000 with Barrier. And you can use this card to pay for energy while she's in your battle area. She just counts as an extra energy. And the fact that she has Barrier means she can't really be destroyed. So unless you are willing to lose her, or you know for a fact you can protect her, you don't ever want to really tap her until you have the right cards set up. Now, this card was a last-minute addition, literally added probably 2 or 3 minutes before the tournament started, was Preface of Recovery Son Goku. Now, the deck itself was untested, aside from me playtesting a few hands at home, but I had not even tested this card at all. He's a 3 cost, 15,000 power with Barrier. And when you play this card, choose up to 2 of your energy and switch them to active mode. So you basically get a 15,000 attack with Barrier for 1 energy. Really solid card. Just gives you that extra attacker, and with Barrier, he can't be targeted by anything. So he's got a bit of protection on his own. Then to go along with all 3 of those themes, Destruction, Barrier, and Gods, we ran 4 Piccolo the Strategist, still one of my favorite blue cards. He's a 4 cost, 20,000 power, crit, and Barrier. And his activate main, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost equal or less than your energy and KO it. And then the skill's negated for the rest of the game. Now, if he leaves the field and comes back, he gains the skill back. If you play another one, that one has a separate skill because it's considered a separate card. So it's essentially like an auto, but you can choose not to use it on the first turn you play it. And what is a God of Destruction without his angel? We have Whis, the mentor of Beerus. He's a 3 cost, 15,000 power, also with Barrier. and he reduces the energy cost of every Beerus in your hand by 1. Now, there can only be 1 Whis on the board, so you can't stack that energy reduction, but you really don't need it, because by the time he's on the board, the next turn you can just play it for 4 energy anyways, whereas you'd have to play another Whis, and just, you're sending yourself off a turn anyway, so it's not really worth it. And then, what is an angel without his god of destruction? We have Beerus, Universe 7 Divine Vanquisher. This card is what really inspired me to build the deck, aside from the leader. He's a 5 cost, 25,000 power with double strike. A lot of people give this card a lot of flack, saying it's not that great. I found it to be extremely useful during the tournament. Your opponent, when you play this card, is always going to have 6 or higher cost. Always. No matter what. Even if they don't have battle cards. Unless they're charging 0 and 1 cost cards, they're even going to have that in their energy. So they're either going to discard, or they're going to pitch cards on the board. I even had a dude choose to pitch cards from his energy instead of from his hand, just so he didn't lose his combo pieces. So I think that this card really makes your opponent have to think of what they're going to do, what they can afford to lose, what their next move is going to be once they lose whatever cards they choose. I think that this is a severely underrated card, and I love it to death. When this card attacks a leader card, your opponent chooses any number of cards from their hand, battle area, or energy for which the total cost adds up to 6 or more and places them in the drop area. It's a lot better than people give it credit for. Then, for a little bit of extra searchability, we've got 2 Time Patrol Trunks. We're running blue, so you know we're running 4 Raging Spirit Future Sun Gohan. 4 Unyielding Spirit Trunks. Honestly, I don't see any reason not to run that card. Nobody can convince me of any reason not to run that card if they're running a blue leader, with the exception of the people that are running Super Saiyan 3 Goku in anything that's not blue. 4 Boost Attack Piccolo. I'm still undecided on whether or not he is or is not better than Kibito Kai. They both have their advantages and disadvantages, but overall, it's not even so much of I'm choosing one over the other, is that I have so many decks that I build to playtest, to go ahead and either do content or just to see what works. And just for a little bit of variety, because I get bored playing the same stuff over and over again. I don't have enough Piccolo and Kibito Kai, so whichever ones just end up in decks usually ends up being what I play the tournament that day. I never really think about, oh, hey, maybe I should switch it to the other one. It just doesn't happen that way. Then we've got 4 Sensu Bean, because if you're playing blue, especially mono blue, that's the other card there's 0 reason not to play 4 of. And then 4 Whis' Coercion. If you're playing blue, this is the negate to play, but if you don't play negates, then I can understand why you wouldn't include this card. Our matchups with this deck were actually pretty crazy and pretty all around. Round 1 we played against Dr. Mew with the Fearless Pan engine, and even though it seems like it's underwhelming having all of those cards that half of them can be played for free and then they all get 5k and double strike, it's really a lot of pressure that gets put on you if you don't keep their stuff off the board. Luckily, Beerus does a good job of doing that. Between him, between the 5-drop Beerus, between the Piccolo, between some of the side deck stuff we run, it's just really easy to not let your opponent build up a lot of board presence. Round 2, we ended up playing against green-yellow veggies. That stuff is fun. Kind of getting tired of seeing it, to be honest. I know, it's a good deck. It's going to be around for a while, but I don't enjoy seeing it. Again, luckily, Beerus handles veggies extremely well. Everything that you play is going to die to Beerus' ability, shy of 4-drop Kale. Then after that, we played Super Saiyan 3 Goku, red aggro bullshit. Super fun deck to play against. Again, the leader really doesn't do a whole lot to me, in my opinion. Offensively, he does nothing. He doesn't add anything to the table on your turn. It's only on your opponent's turn when you get that 3 energy that you get open at the end of your turn, which doesn't do a whole lot to hurt your opponent. It just helps to not hurt you. It gives you energy to play negates. it gives you energy to play cards like Unbreakable Super Saiyan Son Goku, which is essentially another super combo. Uh, if you ran stuff like Mafuba, or if you ran cards like the Future Gohan, which people aren't running if they're running red, because more than likely they're running mono red like this guy was. So that extra energy at the end turn really doesn't do a whole lot against me, as it does do more for the opponent. Now, I will say we would not have gone undefeated this weekend if it was not for the Master and the Mysterious Warrior. I used to think that Time Patrol Trunks needed to be in every deck, but honestly, I almost am starting to feel like the Master needs to be at a minimum of 2 in every main deck. His ability is just so damn good, and unless you're playing against a really heavy barrier deck like this deck, or more competitively, say, Apes, he's gonna hurt your opponent's board pretty well, and he is a major veggie killer. He can get rid of a minimum of 2 veggies for 1 energy, and then he's a double strike swing, which can potentially lead to game. In fact, it did lead to game the final round playing against the Super Saiyan 3 red aggro player. Now, we sided 2 Courageous Heart Yajirobe. I did side them against the aggro red player, but I never ended up playing them, as I think I drew one of them once, but there was no need to really play it versus playing one of the other cards I played. Excellent card to side deck overall, especially if you're running mono blue. The other deterrent to my opponent's aggressiveness that I played, I don't know why I worded it that way, was 2 Mafuba, an extremely great counterattack. I don't think it's better than main decking Whis, just because if you have 1 energy open, Whis is free. Mafuba requires 2 energy, but Mafuba is definitely a much better counterattack card than Whis for sure. Then I ran 3 Rebirth of Justice. I had these main decked at first, because I had cards that I could run with it, like I can run the Piccolos to bounce a card and blow up one of their cards. I thought about running it with Beerus at first, because I could drop the 5-drop Beerus for 4 energy, but I can do that with Whis anyways, so doing so wouldn't really be too beneficial. Plus, if I bounce something and then his ability is going to go off, then they can just pitch whatever I bounced, and the effect didn't really do a whole lot. So I ended up side decking it in case I needed to get extra things off the board, just to kind of pair it with Piccolo. For decks that were really combo aggressive, I sided in 2 Ultimate Jockos. I can't remember what I did side it in against. Might have been Veggies. I could be wrong, though. But unless I really had something that I thought didn't do the job well enough, I just kind of would take that out and put in the Jocko. The last 4 cards aren't really so much side deck cards, as it's 4 Majin Defier South Supreme Kai. I had these in the deck before the preface of Recovery Gokus. 1, because they're also 3-drop 15Ks, but because of the crit, and because of the ability to bounce my opponent's 3-drop or lower. But with some decks, you kind of don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to bounce a Kaba. Sometimes I don't even want to bounce a Kale or a Khalifa. It just depends. So, one of the God Squad teammates suggested that we run Preface instead of this guy. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I didn't know what to do with him, and I was like, hey, I'm 4 cards short of a side deck right now. Let's just throw this in there. Normally when I build side decks, it's just kind of last minute, because half the time I don't know what deck I feel like playing. I had no intention of playing Beerus this weekend. In fact, my other God Squad teammate that was there recommended I play Beerus, because I had kind of come down to the wire between Beerus and Boo. I wasn't feeling a couple of the other decks that I had play tested that morning, so I thought, why the hell not? We'll play Beerus, and it turned out pretty well. But that's going to do it for our Beerus God of Destruction deck profile. It was a lot of fun playing this deck, and I feel like Beerus won't be tier 1, but I feel like the leader is good enough to be at least like 1.5 maybe. It's got a decent competitive matchup, just like Zamasu does, and I think if you play it right, I think the better pilot could run this and actually do extremely well with it. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you liked the deck, hit that like button down below for us. We appreciate the support. We appreciate all of our subscribers. You guys have been fantastic with all the views, the likes, the comments, the discussions I've been having with you guys. The suggestions you've been giving me have been great as well. It's also been nice to hear you guys having a lot of success with some of the decks I've played. I know some of them aren't as great as others, but it is nice to know that some of you do like the ideas that we come up with. We're going to go ahead and get the freak out of here, though, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
It's time to punish Earth.
I'll take some pride in the fact that it took Beerus the Destroyer to kill me.
Indeed. That's a fine way to rationalize your death. You shall die with your honor intact.